right, let's get rolling then. My God, there's silence in my house. Hi, Karen.
Hi.
All right, starting with the feet together. And slow hip circles. On. Like there's a string pulling your hips all around. And the body acts as a counterbalance. And two more. Very nice. Other direction. Let the back roll. The torso counterbalancing the movement around the feet. And two more. Very good, very good. Stepping out a little bit. Body fanning is next. Remember, we want to keep the weight even between the toes and the heels, not leaning back or forward. It's okay to have a slight bend in the knees. The umbilicus is drawing to the back. We want to roll from the hips. The body comes forward and up, lifting from that middle. Back straight the whole time. If you're looking for more of a challenge, bring the hands to the center of the chest. And more of a challenge still, the hands behind the ears. If you do elect to go a little higher, make sure that your back is straight the whole time through and that you're lifting evenly from that base. Hi, Evan. Moving from the belly, back straight. And two more. Nice and slow. Last one. Good. Bring the stance in a little bit. Again, belly still drawing to the back, back straight. As we sink, raise, and draw. Back straight as we draw down, and lift. Good, using your quads, sinking down, pushing into the ground, lifting, the middle comes forward, drawing back. Two more. Very nice, slightly wider stance. Belly still drawing to the back. Weight still even between the toes and the heel. Pivoting the waist forward. Turning. Looking past the foot. Round to the other side. It's okay to have a slight bend in the knees. Two more. And now 10 more. with the swoop, trying to paint a smiley face on the ground with your hair. Hey, Fritz. Narrowing that stance a little bit. Feet just a bit beyond shoulder width. Start with great big hip circles. Same as the first movement, only now with a slightly wider base. And now without locking out either knee, adding in that body dip. Rolling through, still a slight bend in the knee all the way through. Very good, making sure that hip circle is still the primary focus. And 2 more. Changing directions. Again, starting, just making sure the hips are rolling. Once you feel good, you can add in that body dip. Two more. And last one. Good. Shaking out the legs for a second. Bringing the hands to the top of the kneecaps. Do 5 circles each direction. 2, 4, and 5. Change directions. Excellent. Back to the middle. Forward, open, and back. 5 times. Back to neutral. Back, open, and forward. Good. Shake those out. We're going to do a little bit of knee and low leg strengthening work. Start very, very slow with this, okay? So we're going to take the left leg, arc it around and behind. From here, I'm going to maintain my body posture. I'm going to draw the belly of the spine, head and neck raising as I sink as far as I can, maintaining posture without leaning forward and pushing my butt out. If I can drop all the way to the ground, that's great. If I can drop just a little bit, that's fine too. As I raise up, I'm going to take that front leg, bring it in a circle around behind. Very nice kick. Sinking. As I raise up, I'm pushing the heel down that back foot, outside crescent, and sink for 3. Raising, kicking, 4. Do 10 in total if we can. 5. 6. 7. 8. 2 more. 9. Lastly, 10 with a sink. Good. Shake that out. Hands on top of the knees again. 5 circles each direction. 1, 2, 4, and 5. Other direction. 2, 3, 4, 5. Forward, open, back. Good. Back to neutral. Back, open, and forward. Just good to give the knees some love whenever you start doing low stance stuff. Let's go into some hip rotations.
Where are we weighted at the bottom of that?
Great question. So as the foot comes around and steps in, the front leg is pushing actively, the back leg is stabilizing, and then I press into that back leg as my butt comes down. As I raise up, I'm lifting from the head neck, pushing, the weight comes back. As the weight travels back, it frees that front leg for the kick. And so it's a twist, pushing into the ground as evenly as I can all the way through, raising up, both legs press, dominate the front leg in the beginning, then rolling gently to the back as I sink down further.
Whoa.
Thanks.
Of course. Is he okay, Kate? You shouldn't do that. Babies, they'll eat anything. So, nextly, starting with that right leg, external rotation. Take your time. Make sure you're traveling all the way around that foot. Even arcing in, around, and back. Good, Stephen. Taking your time, one leg at a time. Big roll. Once that roll feels smooth, adding in that gentle foot grab to stabilize. And notice how when you grab with the foot, the amplitude of the circle kind of decreases a little bit. From there, the belly drop, the knitting of the clavicles, and the raising of that head neck as we continue to arc. Good. On this next revolution, changing legs. Start with just the circle. Relaxed, smooth, make sure it's round, everything a circle should be. From there, the gentle grabbing with the foot to add stability to the movement and focus. Drawing of the umbilicus, that movement can begin to draw up into the middle. Knitting the clavicles to make a clear conduit for the power travel through, take pressure off the heart. And that gentle raising of the top of the head towards the ceiling as we continue that arc. Hi, Margot. Very good, everyone. Two more, and then going into our figure eights. 1, 2, and then the back press stroke, drawing into the other leg. Round and round we go. Take your time in the beginning. Nice, even, complete circles. Good. Drawing from hip to hip, round to round. Once the shape feels good, add in that foot grab. When the foot grab is feeling good, add in the belly drop. From there, that unknitting of the clavicles and softening of the chest. The raising of the head neck as you continue to arc round to round. If you're comfortable with the associated arm movements and external rotation of figure eight, you can play with lifting and drawing. You can play with haigui style movements. It's all good so long as that base is consistent. If the base is still a bit troubling, take your time and make sure those circles are feeling smooth and even before you start adding in other arm stuff to, add complication to the matter. And relaxing to the middle. Right leg again, this time internal rotation. Focusing on that circle. Out, around, in, out, around, and in. Make sure the short circle feels easy and smooth. From there, add in that foot grab. And the belly draw, clavicle knitting, and that head neck raise. Even, smooth circles. Good, and rolling into the other leg, same thing. Nice big circles to start with. When circle feels good, add in the foot grab, belly draw, clavicle knitting, and head neck raise. Very good, a couple more just in that left leg. And on the next revolution, drawing it around that figure 8. In the beginning, make sure the shape is smooth. Once the shape feels good, add in the belly draw, foot grab, clavicle knit, and head neck raise. Everything's feeling nice and easy, and start playing with things like the Schwang peak, right? Double slitting. Making sure the hip is lifting, pulling and rounding from side to side. Hip first, arm second. And if you feel that the arms are making it difficult to focus on the legs, just take a step back and work on the legs. When the legs feel good again, start adding back the arms. For those of you who've done this a lot, the arms should be heavy. You should feel their lift, not in the shoulders, but in the belly. The hip lifts, the belly raises, and that belly raise pulls the arms up to the draw. So it should be a very abdominally focused exercise. Roll the belly, slice, roll the belly, slice. As you relax, the speed increases, not because you're pushing harder, but because you're getting in your own way less. Then the weight of your arms. And relax. Shake out the legs for just a moment. Do 5 knee circles each direction. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Other side. Good. Shake those out. Do a bit of work on the base movement for snake creeps down next. We continue to work on our legs. The first thing we're going to play with is the angle and vector of the arm, right? So I start with my arm raised, fingertips up. From here, I'll face back so I'll sit more easily. Pivot the hand and press, okay? Notice how my shoulder turns as I press. It's almost like a joint lock, right? If someone were to grab my fingers and push in, my whole body would move met with. There wouldn't be a break at the wrist, a break at the elbow or shoulder. I'm rolling until this pressure has a direct feeling to the middle of my body. From there, I'm going to take my other hand, thumb side up, starting in a nice high stance, belly drawn to the spine as my butt isn't sticking out, drawing along the inside of my leg to lift. And so facing in, it's just slight weighted towards the pushing hand, press, roll through the hips, and then as soon as the weight comes to the other side, I push now with the other hand. The formerly pressing hand comes right here, that inguinal groove. Still a nice high stance, belly drawn in, drawing through. And then notice how from here, my whole body turns as I push into that side, right? It's not just yoink, everything twists. That stabilizes my knee, stabilizes my back, makes it as I roll through again, I have a safer conduit to travel through. Twist, there's that slight internal rotation of the hip. Press, this time a little deeper, belly still drawing to the back as I roll through. Switch, see how it draws me into my right hip here? Rolling through, let's do 10. Switch, 1. switch 2, switch 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 2 more, 9, last one, press and through. Very nice, and 10, good. Shake out those legs for a second. So this is a movement that requires practice, right? Most of us seen the more complex version where there's that big kobu, the step out, creeping through, kobu, step out, and so on. It's a lovely exercise, but the stepping can kind of muddle the movement in the hips. And the focus here is to create a better range of motion and a safer range of motion in low stance. And so as I'm dropping down, I'm not just dropping into my leg, I'm stretching, so I'm running past my practical range of motion, right? I want to make sure that I'm kind of right in that boundary of where I can stretch through, and then I roll past, and then massage through, roll past. And so just gently opening my hips side to side over the weeks and months, gradually sinking deeper and deeper until finally my butt can go to the ground without any pain or liability to my knees. Does that make sense? Any questions so far? Awesome. Shake it out for a second. Get a quick sip of water so I can keep talking. Okay, my timer back. We've been doing a bunch of work recently on how you lift the foot, right? We did this in Tai Chi, we've done some Baguazhang the last 2 classes. We're gonna do a brief version of that today, going into cold duck floating on icy pond and floating iron plank, which are 2 of the stance and single leg postures. So starting with the feet together. The weight gently roll forward and back. And relaxing the weight down evenly over the feet. From here, you bring in our basic postural elements, beginning with a gentle grab with the toes. It's not a death cinch, right? We're just grabbing just enough. The arch of the foot raises, it's like a suction cup. And the weight splays a little to the outside of the foot. From here, umbilicus draws the spine, which brings the pelvis into even, so our torso can rest naturally on our waist. The clavicles knit together just a little, creating space around the heart, take tension off the chest. And the head neck raises up and away. From here, we need to find a way of getting our leg off the ground. To do this, we're going to lift up, pull across, and press into our rooting leg, in this case, the right leg. As I press down, I feel that left leg lighten, and now drawing from my hip to my opposite shoulder through my stomach, like I'm doing a sideways stomach crunch. I'm going to draw in and allow the leg to raise. And as the leg raises, I'm going to pay attention to my belly about where I feel muscles engage and how that muscle engagement shifts as the leg changes height. It's not going to feel the same when it's a few millimeters off the ground versus a foot, right? Different structures are going to come online to maintain stability. As I'm raising, I'm always pressing down and raising up evenly between the foot and the head neck. From here, I return the foot down, and the weight comes back to even. Once again, feet grab, belly draws to the spine, and the head neck raises. I'm going to be weighting my right leg once again, so I'm going to lift from my left side, draw across, and press. And as I press down, I get space to raise the foot off the ground, right? But to really get that foot high, it's not enough just to press and lift. My body kind of crunches when I do that, and I don't want to deviate from that posture I've established. So instead of just crunching down, I'm going to visualize that sphere of the dantian rolling and lifting, drawing up in like a suspension bridge as it presses down here in that back part of the roll, drawing the knee up as the knee sinks, undoing that spool, and once again, drawing up the middle, feeling that roll around, back and in, back, around, and down, and once more on your own to that side. Very nice. And relaxing back to neutral. Good, good. And now for the other side. Feet to even, toe grab, belly drop, knit the clavicles, raise the head neck. Now lifting, suspending out that right side, pulling across, pressing into the left as we press down, creating space in that right hip. And same kind of Dantian roll, right? Lifting, drawing back, and rolling down like we're winding up a spool of thread, just pulling up that marionette string. And then unwind that thread spool around and down. And once again, wind that spool of thread from the middle, rolling the Dantian up, around, and back, and around and through. Good. Now, obviously, there's no giant spear that we're coiling up in our bellies, right? But if you think of the musculature in that kind of manner, it's much easier to coordinate it in that kind of rolling motion that gives you a deep stability as you draw into the iliopsoas and other of those deep postural muscles to maintain your structure as you lift and pull in. Does that all make sense so far? Yeah? Wonderful, wonderful. Again, Dantian is just a very, very wonderful model, and it can give you a neat visualization to get past all of the messy details when you start out. So from here, we're going to go right into our two basic postures from stance and single. Once again, it's the lift to press, watching first, drawing back up and in, to the lean back and press that we're going to be playing with today. The goal of this exercise is to go slowly and not to skip any part of the movement. We want to make sure we're rolling evenly from phase to phase to phase. If there's an instability where we shake or even stumble and fall, that's great. That's how your body learns to maintain better balance. So take your time. Don't worry if things mess up. They mess up all the time in learning this posture work, okay? Relaxing the weight. Grabbing with the feet. Drawing the belly, knitting the clavicles, which softens the heart. Raising the head neck as the weight lifts out of the left side, travels transverse across the middle, presses down into the right, and in that press, space appears in that left inguinal, that left quad. Feeling the Dantian roll up, around, back, and press on an inhalation. The left leg and the two hands rise. Find your balance. Find a way of engaging the abdominal muscles that doesn't hinder your breath. We're holding, but we're not clenching everything. We're only holding what we need to maintain position. On the next exhalation, take your time. If it takes a couple cycles of breath, that's fine. We want to initiate on an exhalation as we roll forward, feeling every part of that transition of balance through the hip, keeping the back flat like a table the whole time as we reach out into full press. Run through a cycle of breath, an inhalation and an exhalation. Then after that, on the following inhalation, initiating from the belly, from the Dantian, pull the structure up from the middle. It should feel like the weirdest sit-up you've ever done. As the leg comes in and up, maintaining that belly feel until we return to our neutral vertical position. Take your time, go as slow as you need, there's no hurry. This is where we relax and catch our breath. On the next exhalation, when you feel good, you initiate the roll back. And again, take your time on the roll back. Unlike the lean forward, that base leg is going to bend to give you a curve. And that curve is going to be bracing from the palm of your hands to the heel of that down foot. So I'm kind of creating an arch as I press back between the brace foot and the two reaching hands. This raising leg is lifting as I engage my belly, pulling, drawing the foot up. Okay, turn to face all of you. From that press, hang out for a cycle of breath. And then initiating on inhalation. Sorry. See, I fall too. Everyone falls. Drawing up and in. Taking your time. Returning to the middle. Maintaining that balance. One more forward and back. Catch your balance, catch your breath. On the exhalation, pressing through. Using the breath as you exhale to initiate that push. Then on the inhalation, drawing back up. Use that inhalation to power like hydraulics, rolling your body back into neutral. One last time going back, catch your breath in neutral. On the exhalation, initiate that press. Feel the arc from the palms to the foot on the ground. And then once again, after a cycle of breath, use inhalation to draw up and relax down. And take a second to shake that off. If anyone has any questions, let me know before we go on to the B side.
When do we say skadoosh?
Yes?
Yes?
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I have no issue there, Han.
Okay.
In these divided times, I feel skadoosh with a few things we can all agree upon.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know that.
Awesome.
Is that Yiddish?
That's Kung Fu Panda.
Yep.
Oh, funny.
And also, tragically, even though I'm mostly Jewish, I am not Jewish enough to know the answer to that. Yeah, quick sip of water, we'll do this side. I have
have a question.
years.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So when I'm balancing one leg, where should I feel most of the tension? Because it feels like if I'm on my legs right now.
And that's a great place for it to start. We did a question like that similar in Tai Chi. As your legs get stronger and get used to this kind of movement, the place you feel the tension is going to shift, right? And so right now it's in your leg is because the leg is a structure that most needs developing and will most initially benefit from this movement. Over time, as your legs strengthen and learn how to stabilize, the tension should go higher and higher until it comes to your belly. But that's not to say the leg is wrong. The leg is in no way wrong. It's just where you are today. And if you practice this, 4 times a week for a couple of months, it will leave the leg and go somewhere else. Does that sound consistent with experience?
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, again, wherever you need to strengthen first, where you're first going to feel it, let's kind of move on from there. Does that help?
Yes.
Awesome, awesome. Any other questions? Cool, let's do the other side. So once again, returning to feet to even. Relax that weight. Let the body just kind of rock for a second and recover from the tortoise activities a couple minutes ago. Settling to the middle. The feet grab gently. And again, it's that grab that brings the arch up just a little like a suction cup, not so much that you're walking on a tightrope of your own tense feet. You want to avoid that one. From there, the belly button draws to the spine. In doing so, bring the pelvis into neutral so everything at top can rest gently on that nice big basket. Traveling up a little higher, the clavicles knit ever so slightly, and the aesthetic is just from here to there. It's a very slight shift, like someone put their hand in your chest and just ever so gently pushed, and your butt chest concave just a little around that. We're not going for a hunch, just a little more room around the heart. From there, a raising of the head and neck towards the ceiling. We're ready to go. So for this side, we're going to be lifting out of the right hip, traveling transverse across the belly, pressing actively into the left hip, which dislodges the right foot from the ground. For the actual raising, once again, we're going to feel that rolling of the abdominals up. As we roll up, the foot begins to raise. As we continue that spool and reach down, the knee will continue to lift from that center. And the arms come up to meet. Take a second here, relaxing. Feel that belly engagement. And on your next comfortable exhalation, use that exhalation to initiate that press forward. Take your time. Your left hip will be different from your right. Your hips aren't even. Feel how the belly engages. Feel the articulation through your base as you slowly push forward, stabilizing continuously as you reach. All the way through to full extension with the back flat like a table, toes reaching to the ground, fingertips reaching to the ceiling. Hang out here for a cycle of breath. And then on the inhalation, drawing from the middle, pulling yourself up. Take your time. If there are parts where it's hard, that's great. That's why we're doing this. Talk to those parts. Gently roll through them. Don't rush. Until we draw back to our neutral. Take a second in neutral. Find your balance. Make sure you have that belly draw, the chest, kind of run through your checklist. And then the next exhalation, drawing back. See, I fall too. Reaching and pressing, creating that arch of the hands to the foot on the ground. The raising of that forward leg from the umbilicus. Hang out for a cycle of breath. And on the next inhalation, drawing from the middle, taking your time. Don't jump over any part of the movement, especially in the beginning. Gently pulling up. Feel the abs working as you return. That stable vertical. Shake it out if you need to. We're gonna do one more in each direction. And when we're ready, initiating with the exhalation, we begin our press. Again, go slow. Feel that roll and that balance shift as your body adjusts. Feel where you fatigue first and try to find ways of taking pressure off that area so you can fatigue more evenly. From the press, hang out. Fall over if you need to. And then using an inhalation to initiate, drawing up. Last one. Find your composure and neutral. Make sure that belly is still lifting. If you need to shake it out to get the belly back, go ahead and do so. Remember, we're not doing much good if we're jumping over the main focus of rolling that middle. And again, on your next comfortable exhalation, from that lift, pressing back. Hang out in that press. And the next inhalation, drawing up. Take your time. Very good work, everybody. And relaxing down. Whew. Take a moment to shake that out. How's everyone feeling with that one?
Yeah, I had a slightly different experience where I was trying to focus on where the weight was on my grounding foot and trying to keep the weight balanced over the middle of the foot. It helped me not fall over as much, so it was interesting.
That's great. That's great. You can see I can really make very nifty, fine adjustments without grounding.
Yeah.
Foot. Yeah. And back to Stephen's question, and that's really hard to do until you've done this a bunch and the low leg strength is sufficient to, kind of roll your whole body into those adjustments. So in the beginning, it's purely a strength building and a coordination thing. And that's an important first step. And then there's always greater depth you can get to. Some of you have been doing this exercise with me for what, Derek, 5-6 years now for this one?
Yeah, but I was going to comment that adding in this new pressing quality makes it feel completely different. And I feel like I have less stability because I'm trying to activate new muscles than having done it for the last 5 years.
Right. And to that point, stability can take on a number of different phases, right? There's static stability and there's stability in motion. And until you have static stability, it's really hard to do stability in motion, right? But Bagua, because it's a mobile martial art, it's a constantly moving stance, we need that ability to carry that stable structure from phase to phase to phase. And so it's a really necessary step to eventually make that leap of, how do I stabilize as I go through all of these awkward positions? You're all doing really well. This isn't easy. From here, we're going to do a little work with stepping. And it's a similar kind of stepping model we've done for the last few classes. So a lot of you have done stepping before. We're going to take it back down to the basics here and work on how we carry that weight from side to side on a continuum, right? We're going to talk a little bit, of course, about the mechanics of it, but the major focus is how do you make a stable step from leg to leg. So starting with the feet together. Again, relaxing that weight. Toe grab, belly draw, clavicles knit, space for the heart, and head neck raise, our usual checklist. what we're going to want to do is take the inside foot, which for me is this left leg here, and bring it forward about 8 to 10 inches. Okay, not a big step at all. So what you do is the same thing we did for the leaning forward and back from stance and single. I'm going to draw out of the leg I'm going to move, pull that weight across the middle, press that weight down, freeing the hip. And then just like for that big leg lift, I'm going to roll that dantian and use that roll to bring the leg forward. Okay, so it's not a lift and step, it's a roll from the quad, a roll from that inguinal through the belly as I step out. From here, grabbing the ground with my toes, belly drawn to the back, I pull my weight forward. The big toe releases in my back foot. And as it does, I'm pulling the weight up. As my weight comes to the middle, I've pulled the center. As the weight draws down, I pull that front foot. As I press down through there, the dantian rolls, the foot comes to neutral, and then continues the roll as it steps out. Grabbing with that front foot, pulling, the big toe releases in that back foot as the weight rolls up, pressing into that front leg as the dantian rolls, and I step. Continuing that roll, stepping through. As I grab with the front toes, I release with the back toes. Pulling, maintaining that belly draw as the weight presses into my front leg, freeing that back hip to roll up, and then step through. Grab the front foot, release the back foot, belly's engaged as I pull. The weight is shifting, pressing as that back foot comes in, and then continues through. 2 more steps on your own. Good, and relax for a moment. So one of the most confusing parts of circle walking, at least for me in the beginning, was the quality of energy to step through with, right? The pull to feet together makes a ton of sense, right? Like the old model that they're using in Baguazhang, this foot stuck in the mud, I'm pulling it out of the mud. If your foot's leg stuck in the mud, you can't bend for your knee, so you pull from your hip. It's a really basic image that works well for a lot of students to kind of get the idea of where I initiate this draw from. But then comes this part, right? And how am I reaching out? And I have to teach to explain it all manner of ways, and none of it worked really well until I realized that the press through is the recoil from the press in. Right? There's this draw on the abs to come up. I don't let that dissipate. I use that to then extend out. And so this is the push through is the same active energy I was using to bring up, just continued out in the last part of that cycle. Does that kind of make sense? Yeah? Cool. So again, those feet to even. The weight's pressing into my inside foot. My outside foot reaches, grabs. As it grabs and pulls, the toes of my back foot release. I'm drawing the weight up and over, pressing into my forward leg, drawing from the hip as that back foot comes in. And then that press that brings it in continues to press. I continue pressing down on that base leg as the foot comes through. Grab, pull, releasing that back foot. The weight transfers up and over, pushing down. Continue that press, pushing as the foot extends. Grab, pull, releasing the back foot. Belly's engaged. The weight pours, and as it presses, the back foot comes in. We continue that press like the back of a syringe plunger, pushing that foot through. Grab, pull, release, bringing the feet together, and continuing at your own pace for a second.
Why, hello.
She has arrived.
You popped up out of nowhere, Fritz. Were you a surprise, Fritz?
She's always a surprise, Fritz. Fritz's main weapon is surprise. See?
Bye, Fritz. Bye, Fritz.
Hi, so cute.
Hi, Fritz.
He's a Fritz in the box.
I'll show you what I'm
I don't know.
doing.
I need the angle. We'll let your magic stay magic. They will all just have to look on in disbelief that you can appear and disappear with such ease.
Don't show your secrets. It's more fun that way.
Exactly. See, magicians never tell their tricks. Good. And again, a couple more. Grab,
Unless then tell her.
step, pull, feel that weight press, using that press to propel the foot through. Grab, pull, feel that press, using that press to bring the foot through. The weight shifts, and I'm moving with my hands. I'm feeling that shift up and over the dantian. Press, up and over. Press. Kind of see the pace that I'm walking with. Good. And everyone relax for a second. Can I borrow you, Fritz?
Okay.
Thank you.
Can I still be magic?
You're always magic, love.
I cannot be magic.
Quick, quick, quick.
I'm coming.
And up.
Oh,
Awesome.
Fritz, I can't even see you. You're invisible. That is magic.
Karen can't see you, and Karen also knows magic. So as I'm walking, if I don't have that pull from the belly, wait a second. You see how it looks roughly like circle walking, right? I'm pulling my weight, I'm engaging as I step, but I have no abdominal connection, and Fritz runs into me and pushes me. I'm gonna stumble, right? Because there's nothing in that middle to stabilize me to the ground. If I'm grabbing to that middle and Fritz pushes me, it barely affects the alignment of my stepping, right? And at any point I can use that kobu, and away goes Fritz spinning off into the ether. Does that kind of make sense?
So an additional test would be if she suddenly stops pushing on you, that you shouldn't like stumble then either.
Absolutely. And that's the thing we play with a lot when we do partner work, is how to make sure that you have both ends of that stable. It's a very good point, right?
Cool.
I in a very sneaky manner in a second. So again, point that middle, that extension of the leg is just like doing a good kick, right? A good front kick isn't throwing the leg out there in space. You're pushing into the ground as you push through. So if you impact something, your extended leg, your down leg create an arc, and you don't get knocked over backwards. The same thing is true for this. Every step out, every step in Bagua is a kick. Every kick in Bagua is a step. See that same kind of feel of, I'm pulling that foot through with intention. I'm pulling it through with the same, with the same mechanics that I use for the pull. Does that make sense?
And is it the same muscle feel as that Swai Jiao exercise where you?
Yes. It's the same muscle feel, Han, only less explosive. Exact same region, exact same muscle, just done on a smoother roll.
Fair enough.
Yeah. But that exercise is a really good analog for sort of stepping and a great way to practice it. Any other questions?
It sounds like maybe I'm interpreting this right, because when you said that the extension of the leg comes from the lift and is like a recoil, I started thinking about how my abdominal muscles were pulling the leg upward, and I started trying to just release it and let my leg go forward, which has been a little bit clunky, but is that the right idea?
That's a great idea. Yeah, and clunky is always how it starts. Any new mechanic that you bring in is almost necessarily clunky because it needs to integrate with everything else you've already done. And that's
what the clunkiness ends up going towards smoothness.
It does. It absolutely does. I mean, you're saying that you have that up and that recoil brings it forward, right? Yeah. Make sure that you're still pressing even more as that leg comes through. There's the press as the foot comes up, and then the continued press as you reach out. And in a lot of ways, that continued press as you reach out is almost more important because that's when you're going to encounter an obstacle. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. That sounds like what I'm trying to do. It's just that I don't have the coordination yet. So it's like the leg comes out and then I go down.
That's great. That reach, to press, right? Pressing into that foot, playing with that roll, use my hands as a very clear visual of what's happening as I roll from side to side. And as you're training, you can play with that. You can use that press. You can make sure I'm pushing. Okay, now I'm shifting legs. Pushing. Excuse me. Thank you. Now I'm shifting legs. And that way you make sure that there's never a part where you aren't actively engaging and rolling side to side.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yeah, that does help. Thank you.
Of course, yeah. Circle walking is complex, right? The most fun arts I've ever practiced, Capoeira and Baguazhang, have the most complicated stepping patterns. But from that footwork, you actually gain the mobility to use this stuff under duress with partners. That makes it a ton of fun in the end.
Oh, definitely.
Awesome. You see how much time we have left? You're being very cute. Let's do a bit of work with our roll to guard for a second. You're playing with
I'll
last
be
class.
showing funny faces.
So from that big kobu, and again, the combat kobu, thank you. We don't want the feet on a tightrope. We want a nice wide base. We can roll from hip to hip. So if something came in to push on us, we could roll off of it. We wouldn't be stuck on a tightrope and off balanced, right? And so the Gangbawa kobu, slightly turned in feet, nice broad base. From there, factoring in our externally rotating figure eight. Good, just get warmed up with this for a second. And now watch me as I roll. I'm gonna find my guard, but it's not the same roll as I have my figure eight. Figure eight is a consistent amplitude roll side to side. If I try to bring my guard into it, I get slicing, but I don't get the coil to lock that I need to create a new pivot that can then carry off into a well-balanced and coiled circle walk, right? If you play with that for a second, try that, right? You have your rolling figure eight. If you try to step out of that, it's hard to step out smoothly because you don't have that coiled base to step from. Does everyone feel that a little bit? Right? It's not the ideal way to do it, but we still need that mechanic to build the base coordination. Let's move from here. What I'm going to do is break and drill into my back leg, and I do that by essentially jumping the track. I jump off the rails and orbit around in a wider amplitude. As I jump the rails here, see I use that inward rotation to bring the hips slightly more forward. That allows me to arc behind my old circle, traveling behind the circle, and as I travel behind, that leads into the spiral into the ground. So once again, I have my continuous figure eight infinity movement, because it will never stop until I stop it. From there, I hop the rails front, roll around that track, and then as I come behind, drill into that back foot as I turn. We use that for our ward off in Taiji. We use that for our lion pulse ball. We use that for our basic Baguazhang guard. Same mechanic for all three. One more time, rolling figure eight. Same hip, we jump the rails, roll as the arms raise behind as we drill into that back foot. There's our stretch. We have a coil in that back leg, and now if I choose to lift that front foot and step, I can utilize that coil from my back foot to make sure it's a smooth step out, and the arc that I create has integrity. Does everyone feel that a little bit? Yeah? Just like one more time, I'll break it down to side movement, okay? So again, from rolling, same step one more time for consistency's sake. The next revolution, I break that orbit, I jump that rail, I roll around behind as I drill into that back foot. I twist, there's now a twist going through with my back foot, so I can free and step that front foot. That front foot follows the angle of that twist onto my circle. That's how I join circle. And then I maintain that coil as I step around. So in a very real sense, the coil of my orbit break on the figure eight becomes the new coil of my circle, right? One coil becomes the next, without any pause between. Let's go side to side. We're going to do a roll to guard a single circle, roll to guard other direction, okay? Starting with figure eights. Relax in that figure eight, don't worry. We're going to break orbit on the next time through with our left hip. The hip rolls in front. As it comes around, the arms raise. As I drill into my new back foot, there's a twist. Now as I raise my non-weighted foot, it's going to pull onto an arc following the twist of my back leg. I then continue that arc, and that ascribes the diameter of my circle. Back to facing all of yous, and I relax. And from there, figure eights once again. Find that roll, find a pattern that's comfortable. And on the next time through, I'm going to break orbit, jumping that rail, rolling around that first circle, drilling into that back foot. As I raise my front foot, it immediately follows the coil of my back because it has to. And then I follow a circle around my central post, back to facing all of you. Let's do 2 more together, then I'll watch you guys give it a try. Perfect, we have just enough time. Figure 8. Good, jump that rail. Drilling into that back foot, releasing that non-weighted foot. It's gonna follow that twist, that's just what it's gonna do, how things move. And then continue to follow that twist around, continuing that arc for my circle. Coming back to the center. Very nice. One last time together and I'll watch all of you. Figure 8. Good. On the next cycle through, we're gonna jump that rail, roll, bigger circle around, drilling into that back foot, releasing the front foot, which will fall onto our arc, and continue that arc around. Using that stretch to the outstretched arm to pull you into your circle. Good. Any questions before you all give it a try? Okay, give it a shot. Good, figure 8s first. Very nice. Han, make sure that your butt is in line as you reach.
Say again.
Oh, make sure that you don't lisp like this as you reach out. As you drill into that back foot, there's a press down and a raise up. So you see how there's a plumb line straight through to my hips. And what that enables me to do is really embody this twist so that when I raise that front foot up, it just falls onto my circle. Right? But the binder puts it in the coil into my back foot. There you go. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Very nice, Han. Good, Sarah. Very nice twist. Next time, Sarah, take a fraction of a second more to feel that twist compel you to the circle, okay? You don't want to jump onto that circle. You have everything you need to naturally fall onto it from that coil. Here you go, Galen. Keep space in your armpit, Galen, on the left arm. Good. And the shoulder down, so you have a, so it's like there's an oval here, and that oval is stretched through the lead guard hand. Yeah, good. There you go, bottom hand, right about elbow height of the high hand. That's it, and that gives that nice round shape. You can then coil your back through. There you go, good. And when you have a lot of muscle up top, it's hard to keep that clean shape. So it's important that the elbow, the shoulders stay dropped, and you maintain that round so that all those back muscles can come in to support you. Good, Margot. That's great. So you're kind of fishing with here is how to find that exact moment to smoothly jump onto that arc, right? And it's a tricky thing to find. And so right now as you play, the most important bit is when you jump that rail. See how my hip comes through a little more as I then increase the amplitude. Because if I continue that all the way through, that bigger circle would require that bigger hip movement in, right? And so again, from that coiling figure 8, when I jump the rail, I move the hip in like I'm going to describe a much bigger circle. And then to follow that up, I do. I go in a much larger circle around, but then when I hit the back, instead of continuing that circle around like this, I drill into that back leg, which allows me to press out and create the pressure I need to then make my step. So one more time together, we have our basic figure 8. I bring the hip forward like I'm going to make a much bigger circle. I lift my hand as I ascribe that circle. As I travel to that 50-50 point on the back part, that's when I switch legs into that drill. Very nice, Margot. And from there, you can more easily take your step and everything starts to come together. Does that help a little bit? Okay. Very nice, Craig. Good space in the arms, good springinesses. That's great, April. Make sure that you don't collapse that back arm as you come in. As you draw through, I'll do a vertical. You can see there's a lot of space as I press. So I'm sure that as I round, that round is going all the way into my spine and wrapping, right? It's not just shoulder and in, it's everything. It's like I'm hugging around a great big post and then stretching out of that hug. There, good, maintaining that circle. That circle is going to help draw you evenly as you step. That's great, April. That's really good. Yes?
It does not feel really good. I feel very twisted, but in a way that, especially my back leg, the leg that I'm supposed to have my weight on to allow my front foot to step onto the circle.
Sure. Let's get it right here.
Okay.
We have the figure 8. We're going to break as we come in, and as we round, the hands begin to raise. Pulling those hands around that circle. And as you pass over behind, pressing as you raise up and twist into a little bit of space. Good. And again, in the beginning, we don't need a deep, deep twist. That'd be too much for your joints early on. We just want enough of a twist that as you raise that front foot, it falls onto the circle. There, yeah. Does that make sense?
So should I be facing more to my right rather than trying to look directly behind me where I think the center of the circle is going to be?
You always sight between the thumb and forefinger of your outstretched hand. As I come through here, that's where I'm looking, and as I step, that will walk through. In the beginning, the hand's almost in front of your body, right? As you get more and more flexible and comfortable, eventually the hand moves behind you, but that's a very long process.
Okay, so you're not trying to turn like 180 immediately. You're turning a little bit, and then as you continue to step onto the circle, that allows you to turn and face the center of the circle.
The process by which you build spinal flexibility is the same way you build hip flexibility, right? You want to go right to that border of where you're comfortable and be on the okay side of that border, but constantly kind of touching into it.
Okay, I'm twisting too far.
Exactly, exactly. That was a great question. That happens a lot in the beginning, and that one is really hard for me to see over Zoom. So thank you for asking that one.
Thank you.
Yeah. And Kara.
Oh, I was just taking a break because on one of my legs, I'm having a little bit of like twinging in like the more like curl movement right here and then on the back.
Definitely take a break.
Yeah.
Good, Karen. How's that feeling? It's looking nice. It's looking nice. And Steven. Good twist. One more time. There you go, Steven. Instead of 1, 2.
Hi, Jane. Hi, Jane.
That's a good hi. Good. Roll. Hey, Jane, you want to start walking? Jane.
Holy cow, Jane looks a lot bigger than a week or two ago.
The 5th percentile of height is not where he wants to be anymore, and he's trying to fix that.
What did you say? What's not what he wants to be anymore?
Oh, he was in the 5th percentile of height.
Oh.
Guess that now.
That's awesome.
All right, looking good, everybody. Any questions before we close up?